Now, JSW Group and MG Motor India have joined forces with an aim to focus on creating a robust EV ecosystem with forward and backward integration of the supply chain.
Well, JSW Group, Sajjan Jindal really wants to do what Maruti managed to do in India in terms of democratizing cars. So they want to really disrupt the automobile industry. They're looking at an investment of around $10 billion in the next 10 years. And this is in the entire EV ecosystem in India, from making plug-in hybrid vehicles, designing electric vehicles here in India, having the R&D, localizing them, and also getting into electric trucks and electric buses.
First of all, EV is growing, and I shouldn't say this, but let me put it, with the war happening, fuel price, petrol is going, oil prices are going up, skyrocketing, and definitely one will start thinking, why not go for EV and use solar and charge the batteries. So EV, I think, will be a boom in the coming years, definitely.
With so many launches lined up for 2026, by the end of the year, where would you see the market share would land?
Market share will definitely grow by 2030. I think there are a lot of present expectations are there, but I tell you, it has always crossed the expectations.
Wall Street just turned its eyes towards India's electric roads. KKR, one of the most powerful private equity firms on the planet, is in talks to write a check of up to $400 million into an Indian electric vehicle company. An Indian company? Yes, but one born from a joint venture with China and now being restructured in real time as a geopolitical fault lines shift. This isn't just a deal story. This is a story about how war, capital, nationalism, and clean energy are colliding at the heart of global capitalism. Hi, this is Indranil and welcome to the Spotlight Media and Technology. Here are the facts. KKR, the US headquartered global private equity group with over $600 billion in assets under management, is in active discussions with shareholders of JSW MG Motor India to invest up to $400 million. The deal, according to people with direct knowledge, is a combination of two moves: a primary equity infusion to fund the company's growth agenda, and a secondary share purchase from SAIC Motor, the Chinese state-backed automaker that currently holds a minority stake in the joint venture. The company is seeking a valuation of $3 billion, roughly 28,380 crore, which would represent a 100% jump from the valuation at which this joint venture was formed just 2 years ago. If this deal closes, it would be the first round of external equity fundraising JSW MG Motor India has seen since the Sajjan Jindal-led JSW Group forged its original $1.5 billion joint venture with SAIC in 2023. Let's put the company's position in context. JSW MG Motor India closed financial year 26 as India's second largest electric passenger vehicle maker by volume, selling 53,089 EV units, a 73% jump in EV volumes year on year. The company crossed $1 billion in total sales in financial year 25. Its Halol plant in Gujarat currently runs at 120,000 units annual capacity, with a 3,700 crore expansion plan to scale to 3 lakh units in phases, plus a planned greenfield second facility in the same state. The MG Windsor EV became one of the India's best-selling electric cars. By financial year 23, the company is targeting new energy vehicles, both EVs and hybrids, to account for 2/3 of its total passenger vehicle sales. But losses are still widening. Net losses reached 1,096 crore in financial year 25, driven by expansion and electrification cost. And market share in the first 2 months of financial year 27 slipped to 19.8% from 29.8% a year earlier. As Mahindra, Maruti Suzuki and Hyundai intensified their EV pushes, the company needs capital and KKR appears willing to provide it. So why now? What changed? One word: conflict. The West Asia war triggered an oil price shock that accelerated EV demand across Asia in ways no policy announcement could have. Tata Motors passenger vehicles alone reported a 20 to 25% surge in EV demand in a single month, March 2026, directly attributed to fuel price anxiety among Indian consumers. Electric car registrations in India rose over 83% in financial year 26 compared to a previous year. India's EV share of the passenger car market hit a record 6.6% in May, with 26,682 units sold in that month alone, nearly double the February figure. Globally, the IEA projects EV sales across Asia Pacific, excluding China, to grow over 50% in 2026. The Middle East energy crisis has brought oil dependency into sharp focus, and the road transport sector represents close to half of global oil demand today. Capital is following that structural shift. This is the macro trigger KKR is responding to. This is patient capitalism chasing a structural tailwind. Now let's apply the Spotlight Media and Technologies lens, because deals at this intersection of private equity, geopolitics, and clean energy carry a governance story that goes far beyond the balance sheet. On the positive signal side, this deal carries significant ESG and governance weight. First, it represents a further Indianization of strategically sensitive asset. SAIC, a Chinese state-owned enterprise, is reducing its footprint in India's EV sector through this secondary sale. That's consistent with India's 2020 policy tightening on Chinese capital, which has been a structural constraint on this company since inception. KKR's entry replaces Chinese state capital with US private market capital in a sector the Indian government has explicitly identified as a national priority. From a geopolitical governance standpoint, that alignment matters. Second, the $3 billion valuation, if achieved, establishes a credible price discovery benchmark for India's EV sector at a moment when the market is still forming, that attracts more institutional capital. Remember, TPG and Mubadala together invested $1 billion into Tata's EV's arm in 2021. This would be the second major global institutional capital event in India's electric vehicle sector. The signal to global capital market is India's EV story has graduated from policy aspiration to investable asset class. Third, KKR's track record in India, including multiple prior engagements with JSW Group across equity and structured credit over the past decade, suggests this is relationship capital, not opportunistic capital. Relationship capital tends to come with longer time horizons, better governance alignment, and deeper operational involvement. Now, the governance risk and concerns and the Spotlight Media and Technology must be direct about this. The first risk is structural. This company is still loss-making. Net losses widened to 1,096 crore in financial year 25. Injecting $400 million of private equity into a loss-making operation at a 100% valuation premium is a high-conviction bet. But it's also a bet that requires execution discipline the company has not yet fully demonstrated at scale. Market share is already slipping. If the product pipeline, 3 to 4 new launches planned for 2026, including a plug-in hybrid, under-delivers, the valuation premium becomes a liability, not an asset. The second risk is China. SAIC's residual presence, currently around 39% after a Reuters reported 10% stake reduction, means the geopolitical overhang is reduced but not removed. Any policy escalation between India and China, or any tightening of India's FDI norms around Chinese-linked entities, could reopen regulatory uncertainty for the joint venture. The third risk is the classic private equity paradox in ESG-linked sectors. Short to medium-term return pressure in a sector that requires decade-long patience capital. Infrastructure, localization to 70%, greenfield facility construction. These are multi-year commitments that don't always align with PE return cycles. The question of whether KKR's investment horizon genuinely align with the company's transformation timeline is a governance question that deserves scrutiny. Let's zoom out to the global frame. This deal lives at the center of four interesting forces that are reshaping global capitalism right now. 1. The de-risking of Chinese capital from emerging markets. India is executing a deliberate strategy of replacing Chinese institutional capital with Western and Gulf sovereign capital across sectors: semiconductors, infrastructure, EVs. KKR's entry into JSW MG Motor is one data point to a much larger structural capital flow story. Every dollar of US private equity that replaces Chinese state capital in an Indian strategic sector is both an investment decision and a geopolitical signal. 2. The energy security accelerant. The West Asian conflict has done in months what carbon pricing frameworks have struggled to do in years. It has made fuel price risk visceral for the Indian consumer. Governments from New Delhi to Jakarta are accelerating EV policy partly because energy security is now a national security conversation, not just a climate conversation. Capital that enters now is entering at the inflection point. 3. The Indian premium. India is the world's third largest car market. Its EV penetration is at 6.6% and climbing fast. Its policy environment, GST adjustments, FAME subsidies, PLI schemes is structurally supportive. For global PE, India is one of the few markets where demographic tailwinds, policy alignment, and emerging market growth premium converge simultaneously. A $400 million deployment here is not charity capital, it is calculated capitalism. And fourth, the capitalism critic. And here is where the spotlight media and technology must ask the harder question. 100% valuation premium on a loss-making company, funded by one of the world's largest PE houses, in a sector being turbocharged by a geopolitical crisis. Is this patient capital serving long-term economic transformation, or is it return-optimized capital that will demand profitability timelines inconsistent with building India's EV infrastructure at scale? The answer to the question will define whether this deal is remembered as a genuine industry turning point or as another example of financial capital extracting value from a policy-driven tailwind. Our read. The signal is strongly positive for India's EV ecosystem, moderately positive for global clean capital flows, and cautiously watched on governance alignment between PE return horizons and the long-term industrial commitments this sector requires. KKR's $400 million discussion around JSW MG Motor India is, at its core, a story about where the world is going away from oil dependency, away from Chinese capital dominance in emerging markets, and toward a new architecture of industrial capitalism where ESG, geopolitics, and private equity are no longer separate conversations. At the Spotlight Media and Technology, we believe the most important stories are the ones hiding inside the deal announcements. This is one of them. If this kind of intelligence matters to you, subscribe the Spotlight Beyond Profession, share this with someone who needs to understand what's really driving global capital right now, and drop a comment. Do you think private equity and long-term ESG transformation can genuinely coexist, or is there always a tension? Thank you very much for watching and signing it off.